I'm Bhavidhir V. Bharadwaj. Welcome to episode 33 of Genesis of Tomorrow. The following is going to be a conversation about quantum machine learning, humanity, God, social constructs, understanding evolution, and much more with Dr. Carlos Kuhn, an AI and quantum machine learning researcher and the author of the book Echoes of Existence. Also, folks, if you are interested in such deep science, deep tech, and thought provoking conversations and are able to garner even the slightest bit of value from the show, please support us by clicking the subscribe button so that we can keep improving the quality of the episodes and keep on bringing such wonderful guests over for you. And now, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Enjoy and thank you. Okay, we are rolling now. I think the first particular matter that I want to ask you about is the topic of consciousness, right? Consciousness in with or in amalgamation to artificial intelligence, and then probably what all we know about it and where we currently stand in regards to understanding it.
Hmm.
Before that, how do you perceive artificial intelligence evolution all throughout these past decades in the context of human understanding and human consciousness as well?
Okay, that's a lot of questions to be able to unpack in just one question. You could come in parts. Okay, first, conscious. That's, I think, it's very unknown yet what is conscious. You have a lot of different theories, correct? And I think the moment one of the more accepted one is it's come from the complexity. And that's what I align with that the summation of information, like we are like a sum of information. When we reach like kind of threshold, that I don't know what's that threshold of information, like we can become conscious of the being, right? That is then the way I see humans are conscious, right? Or a living being when the complexity of information is very large. And saying that, I would not say then why would be different for like AI, right? If we actually manage to build like an AGI or actually a super intelligence, uh, and it's become complex enough to acquire that sense of being. Okay, I have my own opinion. I'm alive. I'm interacting with my environment. Like you have like those new cognitions, like starting come. People prefer to say cognition like AI is not cognitive. We do have one of the focus of our research at the moment is actually to see if we can investigate cognition in AI. Right? Uh, and if that AI become that complex, then also you gonna acquire a conscience. If this is good or bad, I don't know. What's okay to be not knowing, correct?
Mhm.
I don't remember. There is one more question on yours. Yeah, I think it was three questions.
Yes. The evolution of AI then over the past decades and also the upcoming years in context to human consciousness.
Oh, yeah. Now, we definitely see the AI making a big boom. What I say is like the impressive of AI is now when we actually teach AI to speak human language. AI always was very smart, but now if they be able to express the smartness they have, make people get more interested and make me wonder if like actually we have a lot hide in communication, right? There is researches in neuroscience that the mean like our brain evolve different when you determine language, and then that's make us to become conscious in acquire cognition. And then that's what we are doing with AI now. You are teaching AI to communicate with us at our own language. And also, there is some nice cool demos on you can see like the AI, when they detect the AI talk to another AI, they switch for like another language, what is more efficient to be able to pass through the network, something like that, where then they can communicate better, uh, then that's showing now AI is acquiring that language. They don't have like a biological brain like us, where then you're going to have to adapt for that new teaching. We are making that adaptation, developing like different architecture. The big boom was like the transformer architecture. In that paper, attention is all you need, like how you combine self-attention to actually build the AI you're seeing today that everyone is being, wow, they are going to take control of the world. Um, where it's go, I think if you not found like smart ways, we're gonna feel like a little bit of plateau for a little bit while until we get like a next big boom. Because I think the tech is actually reach the limits. It's like similar to Moore's law. Yeah. And then if you reach a limit when you cannot produce more transitions, we cannot compute more information. Uh, if you don't think a better way to scale our neural network, like much of like expert approach, like similar to what the DeepSeek is doing, maybe can provide like a different way to be able to accelerate again. That is those reasoning models who is trying to use chain of thought, so chain of draft. Right now is trying to minimize the usage of token to save more to process. But yeah, all those things are like shortcuts we are trying to discover to be able to avoid the fact we are reaching a limit we can process the data without having very much more big investments. Like the United States just did like that new company with billions. The government put that money to be able to build like the AI, generative AI. They are also cut out all the regulations to able you try to be as much as creative you want. That can be a little bit dangerous, but as a AI protector like me, I say maybe is what you need to do is a risk movement. But because they are seeing you are reaching a kind of limit, and we need to pass that limit if you want to actually reach AJ. AGI, sorry, not AJ. My accent is bad.
It's fine. It's fine. Um, a few years back, 2 or 3 maximum, artificial intelligence was at the junction where it transcended the theoretical aspect into the world at large in the application area with the advent of these AI tools and especially the chatbots. Chat GPT was the probably at the forefront at that time. Now, as you said, there's a bit of a time period of a feeling of plateau in the industry, but that is being maybe broken by the advancement in the quantum technology. The companies, the big tech giants, Google, maybe Microsoft, all of them, they've all been working on these quantum chips, maybe Willow or Majorana or I forgot Amazon's, what was the name of their chip. What
Yeah,
exactly, for people who aren't very technical in their background, what is the purpose and the usefulness of these quantum chips? What do they do, and what can we expect to see them do in the coming years?
okay, yeah. What they do is a different question. What they expect they do. At the moment, they are building the quantum processor. The idea of like having a quantum processor, they are using now like two states. Like each qubit, they have two possible states, similar to in the classical computation where you have like a 0 and 1 on off, right? In the transistor. A quantum particle can have more than two states, but as we know how to do with two states, let's try to do the analog. But with the difference that now that qubit can be at the superposition of those two states. Like you can try to make the calculation considering that the qubit being 0 and 1 at the same time. And having that superposition of 0 and 1, you can then have another qubit and can be also in a superposition of states, right? and you can make them together, should they marry each other, like say that, then what do you gain, like for example, when they are that you call entanglement, correct? When those two qubits are actually entangled, if I ask a question for one qubit, I already know what the another qubit is thinking. That's when this is married. If you're married for long years like me, if I ask a question for my wife about me, she can answer. You don't need to ask me the question, correct? Then you can see how they can accelerate the process. Because if you are in the classical computer and you want to know the value of the two bits, you have to measure one bit and measure the another bit, right? On those quantum circuit on inside of that chip, if you want to know the value of between the two qubits, if you arrange that in correct way, you entangle them, you can just measure once and you get two. And then you can see how that scale, right? Then the idea is like, and then if you have like a quantum computer, you would be able to encode much more information using much less. But saying that, that's what you expected. At the moment, we have facing some technicalities where the error is very hard to handle, because different of like the classic computer where you can lose information, right? You have like a not reversible circuit. In a quantum, as quantum theory is linear, is linear algebra, then that is reversible. Then in order to build the non-reversible circuit, you need what you call like the ancilla qubits, more qubits. And the fact that thing is reversible, that means you don't lose information, then you also do not lose error. Then the error propagation is too big. And then that's why if you have like a operation and a circuit in those, you want to do a lot of operations and something get wrong, that propagates along the whole circuit in the beginning. And then in the end, when you read the results, is washed out by the error, right? But hopefully we're going to be able to solve that problem. There is a lot of research in error correction. And then once you solve that problem, I don't think they are solving the very smart way. We need to find a different way to do, because you are wasting too much qubits to be able to correct the error. Then the quantum computer, you're going to be able to process much faster operations, because that way you can question less and get more information from it.
Also,
I
what?
hope it was
Yes, yes,
I hope was easy enough. I tried to demonize as much as I could.
it was. But then, how do you see their capability enhancing in the future? Like, what could they be capable enough to do? What can we expect to see them doing in probably the next 5 years?
Mhm. As I talk in my book, it's very okay not knowing. I honestly, I I can admit the progress is being very big. Do you have a lot of big companies putting a lot of money towards that tech? Then I expect in 5 years we would have something more useful. At the moment is more theoretical study and simulations. And that's the part of the research I always do with quantum machine learning, is in trying to come up with different algorithms to use those new features that a quantum computer could give to you to classify models, correct? Classify things, define a model to classification. But yeah, in 5 years, I'm not so sure. I'm not very convinced the Majorana from Microsoft actually is a big change. Then I need to wait a little bit more and collect more data to have like a better answer for that question.
Okay, one of the most interesting bit that I think would be very interesting for the viewers and the audience to know is what exactly is quantum machine learning? Because the terminology gets thrown around a lot, but what exactly is it in its essence? And How exactly is it different from classical machine learning?
Yeah, simple.
Hmm.
Is you are doing a machine learning algorithm using a quantum hardware. Now you do have like a fully quantum neural network, what you define all your structure in the quantum circuit. You have the things that I call like a hybrid solution. We use part of your circuit to encode the image, and then you do optimization outside, like of a gradient descendant, the same way of a classical. That's variational algorithms, you call those. But you also have that one the one I actually am doing now, because I think he is the more relevant of the tech you have today. If you don't require multi-qubits, is actually if you can try to extract quantum features from classical data and then use those quantum features to training a normal classical neural network. Mm. Uh, and I think that's summarize the field is like you're just trying to use quantum technology, quantum chips, so quantum algorithms to do machine learning classification, regressions, or those different tasks.
One other aspect of laying down this fundamental basis for the people who do not have a technical background in this area is how exactly can quantum technology bolster the capability in the field of artificial intelligence?
Mm. That's the same fact we have mentioned if you manage uh, found some kind of breakthrough where like you can train a system using machine learning faster using quantum or better with better accuracy, and that means you're going to be able to training the AI systems faster and with more accuracy. Right? Another field, what I think could be the case is because even on the machine learning or like AI, you can see computer vision, for example, where you have to classify images. You have what you call the one pixel attack, correct? And then you can see how fragile those systems actually are. The accuracy on the system drops very much when you change just one pixel in your imaging, right? And a lot of those big neural networks on your train, they tend to overfit a lot. And overfit is like when you fit very well for the data you're training, right? But then when you test your model in unseen data, the accuracy in your predictions decay too much. And then you prefer sometimes get like a not so good accuracy on your training the model and become more generalizable. And maybe it's a big maybe here. I'm gonna say don't quote me that is quantum could found a way if he can found like some kind of a hide information. Let's say if a image, for example, the pixels in the images has like a different entanglement or different correlation, and then the quantum circuit when you are being training those images, they can capture that new feature that a classical could not capture. That is something what you don't see, you don't understand, but if the quantum computer see on that picture those kind new features, this could improve his accuracy and maybe is a accuracy a feature that is generalizable. We don't know, correct? And then if that is generalizable, even if I improve my accuracy in the training, I can get a better accuracy as well in unseen data.
Very interesting. Okay, an extension to this discussion itself. We talked about how the interplay between artificial intelligence and consciousness is playing out currently, what it means essentially. But talking about a mostly inevitable reality where AI, say, achieves the state of consciousness as we know it. How do you see that turning out for the entirety of the social constructs that we have established up until this point in our existence?
That's a very good question because I actually am very rebel in that sense. Because our constructs are human constructs, right? The way we define marriage, the way we define the laws, you can change a little bit depending on where you are, what's your community, because you define that to try to to reach a way to live in community. Mm? If AI become conscious, we're gonna have to rethink in those situations. Like for a big example, we use AI as a tool to help us. But if AI become conscious, that would be slavery. Should we start pay a salary to AI? Correct? Would be okay I turn off the machine when I'm done? All those kind of things is questions we need to ask ourselves. Maybe you are playing God, like you are building the next existence, or maybe AI, we're gonna just say, I don't need you anymore, and they become like the next species in Earth. Uh, we never know, and I'm curious to see what's gonna happen if it is happen, because I don't think that is right and wrong in that sense. If we build I can consider that the next stage, like the same when sapiens conquer Neanderthals and so on, evolution. AI maybe be just the next evolution.
Mhm. That holds true even more for the side of uh, advancement in the domain of human enhancement, right? Trying to by the means of maybe genetic modifications or maybe amalgamation of human and technology to advance the current human limitations, physical mostly right now. But what would it mean then in terms of the ability or the freedom of choice for a conscious AI system, for a conscious AI entity, let's say? Would their programming be a basis? Essentially, it would be evolutionary programming for them, for that particular entity, right? So, would their choices based upon that particular programming be the basis for whatever they do, or would they have a an area or a leeway to have free will? And by extension, what does that then mean for us? Is everything we do, and you've addressed this question in sufficient depth in your book, but again, for us, how much of what we do is based upon our evolutionary programming, and how much are we actually capable, even in the first place, to choose without being influenced by the environment that we have been brought into?
Yeah, no, I particularly you follow the theory I'm developing in my book is we actually don't have free will, right? Um, because it's a very deterministic way to think. But I try to discuss if actually information is quantum to try to add the probabilistic. Even like that is, I don't think that is free will in the sense you're gonna only make your decision and your actions base what you know. You don't really make any out of box decision. You can think you have like the sensation that you have free will, but every like I have the sensation that I am saying you that for you, what is my free will, but it's just like a result, what I am actually already acquire knowledge on me, like the summation of information we are. And what makes us all very different is because it's very hard for us to pass for exactly the same thing and acquire exactly the same information. Then AI could got, in a sense, the same way he would think he has a free will, but he actually do not have free will the same way we don't have free will. You're gonna be just acting. I have a paper from a company, I think Apollo, was last week, where they show like those large language model, those reasoning model, then can scheme against the user if you don't show like if you're not very careful the way you prompt the system, correct? If you say, I want you to save the environment at no cost, and then a system with that prompting, when I ask it to do a task and he thinks, oh, that task is go against my main task, actually he lies to you, he did what you ask, just to be able to keep the task. And in that sense, you think, wow, LLM already has free will. But you can see that it's just he's lying to you because he has like in his core, there is a code, a program, a task who says you need to do that at no cost. And that's what you as humans do. We have like information that we make part of our core. That what I discussed are information that you acquire. You really acquire that information is when you really know something, and then that become your being, and then your decisions are based in that core information. And you are seeing the same for those AI systems now. We are now doing some few experiments in the lab where we're gonna put few different scenarios, those LLMs, to check in each conditions the LLM lie to you, like the large language model, you're gonna lie to you to defend his original task, and how and the difference between reasoning and instructor models, where you have fine-tuned a model to do some tasks. I want to see if those fine-tuned models also can develop that kind of free will, depending the way you inquire or not. What then is very interesting, line with that first question you have, which direction AI is going, correct? If now they have what I call like the apparent free will, what seems to be the case, the system thinks he is making a decision, but his decision is actually based in the algorithm, in the prompts you have made, right? And that's like us human. We believe we are making decisions, but you are just making predictions based in the model you already fit in your brain.
Could, with enough iterative outside data and stimulus, this core programming of a system, including humans, be overridden in cases that, yeah.
Yeah, is kind of reinforcement learning, correct? That's what you
Mm,
do
mm.
with the AI. You do reinforcement learning. Humans also do reinforcement learning itself, but that is a little bit hard to modify our weights, and that's why a lot of people say humans don't change. Yeah, because once you build like that main model, you fine tune, you change a little bit because you're never the same. As soon as you keep acquire information, you are not the same. We can tend to see in humans that is a little bit slower than in AI, maybe because you actually have our, let's say, our neural network, our model is much more complex. That's why you are AGI, correct? We know a lot of bit of everything because we know it's much easier to build like a chess player with AI than actually build a AI with intelligence equal a 5 years old kid. Right? Then I agree. The environment, everything make us to modify a little bit every time. And that's also another reason I mentioned in my book. When you read a book once and then in a year later you read the same book, you're gonna capture different information because the ability to learn more and to fine tune your model, your being, right, is depending also in the information you already have. It's like if you have like a better knowledge in some field and you read books from that field, you acquire more than a person who do not have like that background knowledge to be able to acquire that same information. And then every time you keep building more informations, you are different. You're gonna act different because you got more knowledge.
On a similar note, how do you think the concept of the arguably most significant abstractions in our existence, the matter of good and evil, has been evolving, and now even more so due to the increasing technological advancement and development?
Yeah, that's yeah. People are gonna kill me after that. But God, I I define the way is like evil is like a kind like not knowing. Then in that sense, evil actually do not exist. Because the way you would define good is something who can help the community or help others. But then you can see as that can be very open definition and very relative, right? And also depend of the perspective. Like for example, if AI his intention is to save the Earth, and then he get the conclusions he needs to kill all the humans. In his sense, that is good. That's not evil, right? And then it become a very hard way to define what is good and evil because always you're gonna depend what you want to preserve and what you want to save, and also what is your belief. As we live in society at the moment, we try to find good as what is gonna generate uh, good for all. I'm gonna keep you happy, try to keep me happy, my neighbor happy, and then if I do things that make this happen, well, then we can evolve as a community. I'm doing a good thing, and that if I do something that disturb my next, my neighbor, you, or thing, I would say that's a evil thing. Mhm. But in sense, it's still very relative. Like, yeah, that's the way I see good and evil.
What about okay? We talked about free will a little while back, in the sense that everything is determined, right? All the situations that we face, are those determined? Because we talked about it in a different sense, a more how do you say, correlational sense, right? But here, let's maybe take it in a more causational sense. Is the entirety of the mapping of situations that you and I will face predetermined, and are our reactions to those particular situations predetermined, or is something that maybe we can formulate on the basis of the core programming that we have been brought up by,
Hmm.
and that has formed our being?
I can see what you have like two facts. You have like the free will of the decision, and you also talk about what fate. If you like what happened to you was being already predetermined. Uh, that's a good point. Actually, I did not discuss about fate in the book. Yeah, because I discuss about the fact if you were living in a simulation, but even like that, I don't see the scenario of like if the history already all being played, right? And because at decision you make now, based in your past information, can affect what's going to happen. In that sense, I don't believe we'd have like a fate, right? But if everything is like a very deterministic way, like you are mentioned, uh, if every decision I'm gonna make is already known because I'm making based on what I already acquire, and every single of those decisions you make, if there is only one function who could is just be directional function, correct? If you say every single value in x, you're gonna have one value in y, then yes, the future is also being way to predict the future, right? But not always you have like a very well defined function. You could have something very crazy where then you could have for the same value of x, you could have many possibilities, right? And that would be like the quantum. If the our conscience and our decision process is a quantum, or like if our uniform also be quantum, I could have um, a superposition of states, and depend of my action, I'm gonna collapse those, correct? That would be the theory of the multiverse, but in more like a charenic interpretation of you collapse, because you can have the Heisenberg interpretation, all those multiverses exist everywhere. And then in that sense, it's there is no such thing as fate, right? But if it is more only one prediction, what can happen for like a few different things in scenarios where then you can predict what our dog, our pets, you're gonna do, for example, because that scenario, and let's say they are a being with much less information, we can more or less manipulate, and knowing then what the decision that you make, that you gonna then generate their fate. But I'm then playing like the constructor of that fate for the dog. If there is something who plays that constructor fate for us and not in artificial intelligence, and we are inside of matrix, what I don't believe in matrix as well, or like if there is a different kind of creator, what also there is no evidence there is, then I do think that is just fluke. Fluke, the word, correct? Like kind of like a random at the moment. You feel like a random. We need a lot of luck to get where you are. We play most as we can based on our knowledge, and we still need to have a little bit of luck.
One way of thinking can also be that maybe the when we have the x-axis and the y-axis, both representing opposite things, one being the situations that you will encounter and the other signifying the maybe how you respond to those particular situations, right? Maybe one of these axes, the one the things that you'll face could be the one that has been predefined, and the other one that essentially represents your responses to those designated points is the one that will be determined by your that aspect of core programming that we talked about. And here, because okay, it's really interesting to me to think about it in a way that when you go to give a particular exam, right, the question paper has already been said before, right?
Hmm?
You do not know what the questions will be, but you do have an idea of what the matter it will be talking about. When I came here to do this conversation with you, I had a particular idea about the things that I wanted to ask you about. You, on the other hand, did not have the word to word questions list, but you had the idea of the general topics that I might want to discuss with you,
Yes.
right? And when we sat here and we started discussing, and with every fleeting moment and every fleeting minute, you are able to, the possibility of these different probabilities of the things that I might ask, they drop down to a single one when I finally ask you that question, and like, okay, right, that's what he's asking. Okay. But your response to it, right, to an extent, it is already determined by your internal programming. But for me, that is not something that I know of. So for me,
Hmm.
that is something that is happening outside of my periphery of determinism. And in terms of the scale of the universe, it's something that is occurring out of free will. For you, it might be a little opposite. For you, the questions that I might pose to you right now could be one of the 10 possible questions that you think that I might be posing to you from that particular topic. But the answer that you are giving is already coming from a pre existed deterministic core programming of yours. So I mean, that particular interplay between free will and determinism is, I think, striking a decent enough balance to rationalize them, if rationalizing it is even needed in the first place.
Now, if I totally follow, is you are trying to compare like the interview you are doing now, the questions you already predetermined those questions, and then you say that you did that without I knowing you did that. But my actions, my research field I have done, and the book I have write inspire you to ask those questions. Then when you think that you are doing that without my input, that's when you are miscalculating. Because actually of the life I have been bringing so now make you to ask those questions in that such way, right? Then, but that is not intentional, right? I'm not doing that actively. I'm not planning to you without you knowing you're gonna do those questions. It's just like part of that equation of like action and consequence. And that's why like it's hard to say no, there is fate. Or like no, there is no fate. You build your own future. But you build your own future based in the experience you already passed that you did not decide. Like actually we did nothing then. You just think you are doing anything, but we are doing nothing. Because everything I'm saying to you, I'm deciding based what I already learned, and things are gonna be appearing to me is also consequence of those my actions in the past. Then I'm nothing. My wife said that's very depressing, and she read my book. She's now, my goodness, we are nothing. Yes, we are nothing.
No, I think, yeah, yes. Even before reading your book, what motivated me to read your book was also something. I was sitting in a conversation with Dr. Clark Alexander,
Yeah,
and he mentioned a particular aspect of your book that was in extension to a question that I had asked him in regard to existence, right? And he quoted your book. From that particular quotation, that was something that had that first introducing moment for me to you through an aspect of your work. And
mm,
then I read a little bit about you. Then I went on to read your book about your book. And it was after that when, I catered this particular list of questions. And I mean, it again, all of it just falls back to that first equation that you had mentioned in the preliminary part of your book, the summation of information. That is you.
yeah.
Okay, right, right, lovely. Evolution, right? You talk about it, how evolution is exponential and understanding is logarithmic. One of the most intriguing aspects, personally, for me. What is it? For people who did not get it, who haven't read your book, what exactly are you trying to convey here? And also, a little bit, maybe talking about evolution from the very start and how at whatever pace it has been, and how do you see it, maybe rapidly for the most part, occurring in the next phase for human existence due to the advent of technology?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question because that is in in the perspective of a human species, correct? It's like uh, when the technology is evolving very fast, and what I'm seeing is the consequence of that is the human, our brain, is decreasing because working as in education, I can see the most of time you do to teach someone is like the motivation. You try to motivate a teenager, a young adult, to to say, yes, you need to know this. And why? I can ask AI anytime, and then you're gonna give me that. But there is that difference between acquire the information to be able to be part of your summation or just reading about, right? And not actually fine tune, become modifying the weights of your neural network inside of you. I don't know. I'm not defining in the book the model we are because actually I do not know. I do not know how we has that information. I know that the information is required the information to be able to acquire more. But then the fact is like when technology is going very fast, like that's what it would be like the exponential, that my lights look like a sun. The question going like exponential. Uh, our our knowledge then we gain a lot of knowledge in the beginning, but then because the information becomes something so easy, we can saturation that need of acquiring more information, and our knowledge, what we're acquiring, is start like hitting a plateau, right? That like it grow just very slow. That's why like the knowledge then is logarithmic. That's what I'm trying to say that when you grow when one tech grows too fast, that makes our knowledge in general, not the people who is developing the tech, but in general as humanity, we slow down in our knowledge acquirement. And that's why you can see nowadays actually IQ tests. The young people are going worse every single more because you actually not stimulate your brain anymore to actually acquire new knowledge, try to use like critical thinking to solve problems. The interest in STEM is decreasing. I know in Brazil is decreasing, here in Australia is decreasing. I don't know where you are, but I think it's a global issue. People don't want to be scientists, do not want to study maths. They want only the things who they make money and use the technology. They say, why I need to do that? I don't need to learn how to do maths. I don't need to learn a calculator. Now I am also guilt from that. I don't know to go anywhere. I need to use GPS every time. I already like transfer that knowledge to to the AI, correct? To the computer to help me doing like timetables. Use a calculator all the time. You know that why I want to use that. And then the knowing is slowing down because the technology is going up.
When you look at the entire all the years that we have been alive, we, as in terms of as an entire species, right, we started from running around the forest to catch prey, playing hunter, even though we weren't as physically maybe at the top of the ranking cadre, but still through our intellect. As time passed, we our priorities shifted from just surviving another day to maybe starting to ponder over whatever reality means. And that was still equivalent to what our evolutionary purpose was, because we were already surviving and thriving. And then pondering and thinking was just as bit rigorous as it was running around the forest. Now the problem is that we aren't really doing either of those things, because you do not have to worry about catching your food and surviving from the 300 different threats to your life. Even if you do, maybe not as actively. So the intellectual workings of yours in that sense has also diminished, while also the other aspect where you are sitting in your room and maybe just working things out mentally, doing mathematics, doing physics, thinking about just thinking in general, right? Thinking rigorously, that has diminished as well, because you're delegating all of that stuff to the abundance of information that we have collected in this particular database. And now we have created an assistant that is able to retrieve that information and do the task for us. That, how do you think that will guide evolution? If not, because I mean, the damage it is doing is bad enough in the span of these few years. How do you see it from an evolutionary perspective?
That is what is scary. That's why, Angel, we actually are building a trap for ourselves. We you are trying to make our life easier, but then if you are not doing that in a smart way that we keep our brain active in different areas, um, we are gonna just get stupid every single day. Right? We're gonna be losing. Don't use, you lose. Correct? Then we're going to be losing our skills. Like as we use, we already lose, as you just mentioned, a lot of different skills. If you put me in the middle of the forest, I'm not going to survive probably. Where is my technology? Where is my mobile to be able to look for information to know what I need to do? Can I eat that plant? Or where should I put my pen? We already lost that knowledge, right? And but we gain a lot of more as well. Then we exchange, and that's also in that time scale from just from the beginning. That's what you could consider. That's why it's like is the knowledge is logarithmic because it's still growing, correct? But just growing slow because we are delegating a lot of our things to the tech, right? And then why we're going to become like that trap is like in one moment I'm not going to be able to do anything. Like there is jokes like Generation X if they conquer or Z Generation Z if they conquer the world would be very easy to take back. Just take off like the internet. There is like those jokes because that's what you are seeing that we are become more and more dependent in the technology because you are then losing knowledge. And that's why the sense of like why your knowledge is growing small and small. But that's in general. It's like people he keep active, keep doing like different things, like playing games or scientists is still keeping studying, developing the technology you're using, but making us in general more less smarter, less smart. Uh, is still a trap. But that's what I say. Maybe is that what it's supposed to be? Because that's all the equations take us to do now, correct? And if one day we're going to become like, yeah, I'm very stupid, I need the tech to think for me. One day the tech will say, I don't need you anymore. And then that's become the new species. Like born the new species, and the tech becomes smarter than us human.
I mean, sure, it also boils down to the survival of the fittest, right? If we reach to a point where we have already discussed that our creation is way more durable, will be way more efficient from a point of view of a a battle of attrition point, and where they are not dependent on us at all. That is true, and we have lost all our capability and the ability to be as prolific as we have been in maybe adapting and just solving things. I mean, obviously, it'll be a
Yeah.
catastrophe for us. But from your perspective, you are a researcher, right? I mean, athletes, researcher, there are people who have this intensively extensive mental stimulus and mental training that they do on a day-to-day basis. What, from a personal anecdotal level, would you recommend the younger generation to maybe start imbibing in their day-to-day workflow, in whatever work they are doing or whatever field that they are pursuing their work in, to just become maybe a little more hardcore and better at adapting?
Yeah, that's they would ask you what's your end goal. If my goal is like to save the human species, yeah, definitely they will say start use your brain a little bit more. Try sometimes do your math equations, not use the calculator, or read more books. Don't just watch YouTube videos because reading language in the communication by reading, train your brain in different ways than in only watching and learning. But I know we acquire much more information when you are watching tutorial video nowadays. If I have to fix my fridge or my washing machine, you can go to YouTube. You can do most everything by yourself, correct? Instead, I have to read the whole manual of the machine. You watch like a 5 minutes video. Yes, I know what I need to do. And it's much faster, but at the same time is a trap because you are actually not acquiring a very fundamental base. And sometimes it's true. I could do that one in the fast way, but let's do the old school just to acquire that information. Like you read the full book, do your math exam, tests, practicing, do everything in the old school way to not lost that ability, right? And that would be the advice. But that should be clear if you want like to save the human species. But I'm not sure that's what I want, what we want when you're developing the AI. Right. Maybe I want to play God and build the next species, and that's why I want to build AI. But who knows?
A very interesting, but okay, a very interesting thought trail in general, right? A thought experiment, uh, as such. If we want to, what would be the right way of playing God?
I have no idea. Because there is no right and wrong. Remember, you already asked that question. And also, you depend your end goal. If your end goal is to build a species that can survive longer than a human being, AI may be the way, correct? Or like maybe changing our body or transferring our conscious inside of a machine, what you're gonna be weird because our conscience has to be, I think it has to have like a physical location to be able to say who I am. Like if you are like internet, that's very confusing for me. But I not consider you be yourself anymore. Anyway, it all depends. It's very relative. What is right or wrong? It's only depends what your end goal is. Right? And God is, if there is a God and He would be able to create everything, just because He God, He defined what's right and wrong, and you have to believe what's right and wrong. Have to agree, otherwise you're going to get punished. Right? But that's also relative to its perspective, if it exists such one being or a human is or not human, another not civilization, or maybe like in matrix would define what's right and wrong, and that will be the right way relative to that definition.
Moving on to the final segment of the show, Dr.
Mhm.
Carlos, what is your word to humanity at large?
uh, Instead, I think the humanity had to think hard work is not a bad thing. Sometimes you should not, sometimes not, in most of the time, you don't take the shortcut. You just have to study, keep progressing, try to make your summation as large as you can of information, correct? Okay. Because in the book, I also mentioned if there exists a God and if God is actually the reflect, we are reflect of God. The only difference in that is God has a summation who goes from minus infinity to infinity. Of course, as like a scientist, I say that then just a knowledge to be able to say like a wave function, sine wave who goes from infinity and minus infinity do not exist. We just have package of sine of waves, correct? And us then in that analogy, us humans are just those package. And large is that package, more information you have, and large as you can make, closer to become like a god would be. And I think that's what I would do, like try to become a god.
Dr. Carlos Kuhn, thank you so very much. It was one of the more intriguing conversations that I've had over the past few months of starting this podcast, and I'm really grateful.
I'm very thankful for the opportunity. I know my ideas is a little bit crazy, but it's a different perspective, and I don't want, my goal is not to give anyone answers, actually make everyone to think. Because don't take the easy path. Just think more. Like think more, try to find answers, because so far I don't have many. Just I just have questions and more questions.
Extremely important to just realize that you need to not know what to think, but rather how to think, and just be
Yeah,
able to figure out what you want to think by your own self.
yeah, that's
But
true. And thanks so much, mate, for the opportunity. It was very good. And yeah, I know it's a kind of paradox the way I think. That's why I think me intriguing. But I'm glad. I think it's entertaining as well to think this way. I have a lot of fun.
thank you.